Rugby Round 6 review brought to you by DrivingMaul. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, and I'm going to be behind the scenes because after this wacky weekend, I just can't cope with it. So I'm going to hand you over to Steve and Shane, who will take you through all the games.
Wacky weekend, eh? What a thing to call it. It is round 6, of course. Welcome back, everyone, to the Super Rugby preview show. We have a look at a full round of matches. Actually, we've got quite a lot to go through this week, so we're going to dig straight into it. Welcome back, Shane. Good to see you again, buddy. Let's get into things. It all kicked off, and I'm surprised Paul didn't want to go through this first match of the weekend because it was the Blues versus the Highlanders, and my poor old Highlanders played their typical game plan, and they got unstuck. They got found out a little bit this one. First half was a tight match. Rico Ioane again does what he has done all season long. Scored 2 early tries that were split between a Luke Whitelock try for the Highlanders back the other way. Marty Banks kept the Highlanders in the game as it was poor old Plummer's boot that failed to cash in for the Blues in the first half. And it was a close one. It was 15-13 half-time to the Blues, but they had that little glimmer of hope. And it was quickly snuffed out there early in the second half. Tavita Lee stole a try back towards the Highlanders just after half-time. That put them back into the lead, but the Blues were not done. Milani Nanai thrilled the home crowd with a stunning try to tie things up. And then we got what was just about the death of this matchup, the first card of the weekend, to Waisaki Naholo, and they signalled the end of the Highlanders, not what we're really used to. And Tui Plotu thundered over for the Blues and actually learned how to hold on to a closing matchup. 32-15 defenders beaten, I think was a key stat that I've written down for this one, but final score was 33-26. The Blues actually won at home against the New Zealand side for the first time since 2016. Shane, upset to start our weekend.
And I've got to say, I'm really pleased for the Blues for this one. The last time they had beaten a New Zealand side was the Highlanders, round 1 3 years ago. And so the Highlanders break the duck again for them. So the Blues, the Blues and the Highlanders, both sides have the same sort of tactics. Very scrappy, very hard-working forwards, great backs, and if there was ever a time where the Blues needed to win a New Zealand derby, this was it. And I've got to say they finished off the game very well. There was tense times there where the Highlanders looked, there was a momentum shift there for a little while. Got to say, though, if you're a Blues fan, you'd be pretty happy with that. And, 2 in a row. They've got the Stormers next week. They could make it 3. So, good on them.
And in from the chat there, Andre's saying that's the first weekend that Rico's really shown his class. I mean, the other weekend he just was running things in from the corner, wasn't he?
Yeah, but 6 tries in 2 games is a hell of an achievement. So it just shows you, give the ball onto the big fella and he'll find the line if he's given the right tactical solution. So look, I understand where the comment's coming from, but I also can understand that he is certainly a weapon out there for the Blues.
He's the go-to man, isn't he? He's the one they always go to finish, to give them that little spark. I guess it's that X factor, that sort of capability that most players don't have. I wrote down a few more key stats in this one because I thought there was some crackers in here. I talked about the defenders beaten 32-15. The Blues beat 32 defenders, just 15 by the Highlanders. Clean breaks 10-5. Blues over the Highlanders on that. And tackles, well, I mentioned at the start, a typical Highlanders game plan of just defending and absorbing and then kind of counter-attacking as such. 73 tackles by the Blues, 140 by the Highlanders. A massive difference there between the two sides. And the Blues, well, you got to give them credit, I suppose. They had to win somewhere, but they won't be winning back down in Forsyth Bar when the reverse fixtures played back the other way. I've got to, my Highlanders will take them back out the other side. That was our first game of the weekend. There's comments going through the chat already about the Stormers and what they're going to be doing next weekend because they're the next team in action. They're up against the Hurricanes. And I mean, there's a lot of, there always is when the Stormers travel, a lot of talk about the travel and how they don't like to travel. But this one certainly proved a lot of those doubters wrong. It was an action-packed first half that's seen the Stormers kick any single opportunity they had, while the Hurricanes looked for tries as they do. And they got a couple too, Ben May scoring one, and Geordie Barrett scoring a cracker off a little grubber kick into the end goal from McGrubb. John Luke Duplessis picked up a yellow card in the first half, but the Stormers kind of lifted by getting that blockbusting try from Khaleesi, getting them back into the game as well. End of the half, I thought was a really interesting part of the matchup. The players were trundling off, and I'd even just about trundled off myself to go get a halftime beverage before the referee called it all back for a poor tackle. They ended up with a yellow card for Fafita, and then the Stormers continued to play on, going for the corner, and Hooker and Benambi scoring a try to actually take the halftime lead to 21-15 for the Stormers. That was a huge turning point in the matchup. At that time like that was massive, and to take the halftime lead was massive for the Stormers, who most thought they'd be gone by that time. The second half, though, the Hurricanes awoke. 3 tries in the half, 1 for Beauden Barrett, 2 for slippery Wes Hoosen, and for a small guy, he has some real power and acceleration. The Stormers scored one midway through Yaka Kutsia, and they led briefly, but all in all, the Hurricanes were the stronger finishing side. But a massive surprise, though, at how well the Stormers played.
Absolutely. If you can't get a win in Wellington, if you're an international side, then the next best thing, obviously, is a bonus point, which they took out of this one. The Stormers, and I didn't see too much of it other than the highlights, because it was a busy night in New South Wales all along. But the fact that the Stormers had a gutsy go at the Hurricanes in Wellington, where it is very hard to take points, is something. There's some positives out there that they can take to Auckland next week. And as for the Canes, they just marched on in the end. I guess, when you've got 2 brothers called Barrett who show a lot of class, it certainly helps in that sort of situation. So
a close one still. They won at 34-28, 6 points in it. My finger was hovering by my mouse on the TAB website on that one when the Stormers had a line out 5 minutes out from the Hurricanes line with about 4 minutes to go, trading by 6, and was paying $12 for the Stormers to win. And I thought, that's a bit of a tasty one. Didn't do it though, and thankfully I kept myself my $10. But
more responsibly.
Yeah, no, I won $10.
What was it? The Stormers line out was functioning all night until those last 2. And you're like, oh, geez, just when they needed it, it just fell apart.
That one try, that could have been the difference. A 1-point win, who would have thought that if they had come away? If that would have been amazing. But, nope, Hurricanes hang on. And the Stormers, impressive, though, to kick off their tour. We did go across the ditch, though, over to New South Wales with the Waratahs. We're up against the Crusaders. Things took a bit of a turn for the worst here, I think. This was the low light of the weekend. Not for a result. This is just an ugly, mistake-ridden, slow, drab, stop-start affair between the Waratahs and the Crusaders. The Crusaders never looked Crusader-like throughout the matchup. And the Waratahs, I guess, they took toll of what was a pretty average defence at times from the Crusaders as well. They got a couple of tries inside the first 10 minutes. Holloway and Clark just really going through defensive lines from the Crusaders that you don't expect to see. And, you get the advantage, you got to take it, and they did, which is fair play to them. There's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel for the Crusaders, who went over just over the half an hour mark, but half-time was 15-7 to the Waratahs, but never the entertainment that we'd probably expect from those 2 sides throughout recent years. In the second half, both sides grabbed a second-half try. Flower, of course, equalled the leading try scorer record for Super Rugby, and Will Jordan scampered away the lengths of the field right on full time. But it was a messy one. But you got to credit the Waratahs here, Shane. They came, they did what they had to do, messy or not, and they got the win, and the first team to beat the Crusaders this season. Yeah,
after a very long winning streak, the 31 unanswered points last year has been well and truly forgotten at Waratah land. The Crusaders couldn't even chase down what they had to chase down in the end. Scrappy game, really scrappy, error-riddled game on both sides. I guess the weather, there was a bit of drizzly rain around in Sydney that night. Didn't help at all with some of the skill levels. I thought, to be honest, I would have expected a lot more from a championship side like the Crusaders. I know they were probably resting a few players as well. The Waratahs will be buoyed by that. And to give you a weird stat, which I will, 4 years ago, election night, as it was on Saturday night in New South Wales, the Tars beat a New Zealand side. So the Tars must enjoy playing on election night against New Zealand sides. Weird and wacky stat.
But, with all the elections Australia has, perhaps they could have one every year.
Every weekend would probably be more helpful.
Might help the Wallabies. But look, you got to hand it to the Tars. They came off that loss in Canberra where they were pathetic, and they turned up against the competition top dogs and they beat them convincingly. So, if I was to suggest something to the Crusaders, is that I've seen a little bit of complacency in some of the games they've played this year. Grow up, get into it, and you're a championship side that's won 2 in a row. So, go. You got the Hurricanes next week, I believe it is. So go get stuck in.
The tough ask to follow up for as well, to go and face the Hurricanes next up. But yeah, I mean, it's easy to say that the Crusaders were bad and that their poorness was the only attributing factor to them losing. But both sides were equally bad. There was 45 missed tackles in total, and it wasn't 40-5. It was about 22-23 each. Turnovers, there was 47, and it was a similar stat, 24-25 each. So both teams were really bad. Both teams were mistake-ridden, error-ridden, everything like that. But, I mean, that start ultimately was the spark for the Waratahs, just managing to get on the board early, getting on there nice and quickly and holding it and doing enough, as poor as it was, to pick up the win. And 20 points to 12, it doesn't matter if it was 3-0. The Waratahs will take that to the bank every day of the week, and especially over a team like the Crusaders. That's 3 of our matches done, and we'll pass over to Paul, who's going to give us our halftime team talk for this week's review.
Halftime team talk. I'm not sure that's what this is.
I like that.
Yeah, I do like the halftime team talk. Yeah, it's a good. We might actually have a structure to the show soon, which would be fantastic. So, hi everyone. I'll be talking about the Sunwolves being cut from the top 14, and also not top 14 from the Super Rugby, and also Super Rugby being dropped down to 14 teams. So the Sunwolves one will come out on Wednesday, and the going down to 14 teams will be coming out on Thursday. That'll be exclusively for my Patreons. So link down below in the notes on YouTube. Head over to patreon.com/DrivingMaul. You can become a Patreon, help support these free shows, but also get exclusive access to those kind of opinion pieces, plus other shows over there. So check that out. You can get that for as little as $1 a month. Lots of talk around the Sunwolves, about the politics behind it, about how they structured it, why they went for a team in the first place, and that Super 14 team. Again, the politics around it, I think, needs to be talked about, and whether it's a good thing, whether it's what South Africa wants, whether it's what New Zealand and Australia need. But so go down, check that out, and I'll hand you back to the show.
Perfectly placed segue as well. Talk about our next match, which is the Sunwolves versus the Lions. I like what you've done there, Paul. Good work. Into this matchup, the Sunwolves, I think, again, sparking out of the blocks, definitely a very good starting team, and they started very well early on against the Lions as well. They dominated the matchup and looked as if they were going to give the Lions a good run for their money. Even showed a bit of dominance in the pack, which was a surprise to me. And they got the first try of the game as well. Penalty try, being a big overlap out wide, knocked down by one of the Lions defenders. And there we go. They're in for the first points of the match. Didn't even need to convert it. The rest of the half, though, was all about one man, and that was Malcolm Marks, who mauled the Lions to the lead at halftime. The Sunwolves had their chances, and they, like I said, dominated large periods of the game. but unable to really get themselves into the conversation at halftime. The Lions only led 12 points to 7, though, so it certainly wasn't over at that point, but it certainly was as we got into the second half. The Lions took over. Piles of tries. Groom, Yankees, Mapu, Daimani all blew the game away from the Sunwolves, and all they could get back was a couple of late tries to that barnstorming number 8, Vatiaho, who was amazing, as he has been for a few weeks, to put that respectability back in the scoreline. Didn't look as bad as it probably was on the field, but the Lions really did dominate that second half to take the lead and the match, 36 points to 24. Some will still look impressive, though, throughout the matches. Just not enough here against the champion side that the Lions are.
Yeah, I will say that, 30 hours earlier, they've been told they've been cut from Super Rugby. Well, it certainly didn't look like a side that had been disjointed or not united. They turned up and played some good rugby. The Lions were just a bit better. And that comes with the quality of players like Malcolm Marks and those really explosive backs that can cause a lot of damage. In the end, probably just the fact that the Lions were a little bit more with that Springboks experience that helped them. I thought, as I said, there was nothing too much that I could really fault in terms of the effort of the Sunwolves, and to be honest, it was not a bad game to finish off the Saturday night leading into the Sunday morning.
Yep, it was a decent little match up there for the Sunwolves. Like you say, they did enough. Not enough, but they did themselves a bit of justice as well, especially after the news of just what happened a few days before as well, to be knowing that they're going to be chopped from the competition. That's not going to be good for the mental state of that side. But hopefully, like me and Paul talked about in the preview last week, hopefully it does have a positive flow onto the team. They want to go out there. They want to prove everyone wrong for the next season and a half. They want to go out there and show what they're capable of. And I guess players have to show, because they've got careers as well. They've got to play out, and I guess they've got to go on to somewhere else too. So hopefully they do continue to improve and don't just fall aside and not be that team that they have been this season as well. So the Lions picked up the victory there, close one, just a 12-point victory. We'll move over now to South Africa. Bulls versus the Chiefs. Oh, dearie me, what happened at Loftus? That's my big question. This was a remarkable matchup. All the Bulls managed in the first half was 2 penalties, and the Chiefs piled on 3 tries. Alo Malo, Nankivell, both jumping in off errors for one, and Marty McKenzie, brilliance for the other. Before it was Bulldozer Retallick closing out the half to give the Chiefs, do not adjust your YouTube screens, a 24-6 lead at the break. How has this Chiefs side turned around so much from getting smashed to snatching a draw to leading the Bulls at home by 18 points at halftime? And it carried on as well, because the big man, Retallick, did it straight after halftime as well, bulldozing over for another close to the line try to extend that lead. Then Mr. Damien McKenzie got a bit more involved, and he sets up another try for Nankivell. Then Alo Malo got himself put into the bin, and the Bulls actually got themselves a try, and not really into the match, but they got themselves points on the board. A typical little chip that they seem to have played quite a lot through to Creel, and then they go. The Bulls had double figures, but they certainly weren't to this matchup, as the Chiefs resumed when they got back to 15 players. Tahurirangi jumping over for a try. Alo Malo got another one, and the Bulls didn't get anything else apart from a late consolation try to Burger Oldendale, and that was it for the Bulls. 20 points to 56. Nightmare at Loftus, Shane.
Well, maybe the Chiefs listened to what I had to say a few weeks ago. They were playing the game. They left the game plan in the first few weeks, but they brought it back. It was so exciting to see the fast rucks, the angle line running. It was beautiful. And maybe it was just a thing over the first few weeks, whatever they want to use as an excuse. But this time, they've got all 5 points out of Pretoria at Loftus, and the Blues, the Blue Bulls, who started off very well, looked like a rabble. So Good on the people that needed to step up at the Chiefs, like Retallick, who just put an exclamation mark on how valuable a forward he is, not just to the Chiefs but the All Blacks as well. International quality, and some of the Chiefs boys that didn't stand up in the first few weeks, the last couple of weeks have been really positive. So something has obviously changed. Some harsh words have been said, and the Chiefs have come out firing, and I look forward to seeing them play for the rest of the season. I reckon they'll be right now.
Yeah, something did change, and that was one little short man that was given a different numbered jersey, and it was a 15 instead of a 10. And I mean, he changed that game. He changed that game massively. And 2 weeks they changed that against the Hurricanes. They snaffled that draw, and then they're going to done this in South Africa. I mean, you don't go winless in the opening 5 rounds of the competition and then go to Africa and then thrash one of the better sides. You got to say they're not the worst. They're not a easy win, especially over there. You just don't go and do that without, like you say, something majorly happening. And I think that is a huge contributor to that Chiefs side. And goal kicking. We talked a lot about goal kicking for New Zealand sides. Just missed one kick, Mackenzie, and that was when time was up for that last try that come off the post. So important to get those kicks, and that big difference for me was just that one man and support play around him. Guys like Alo Malo, who come on back from injury, got injured straight away, and then hasn't seen much game time since then. He's huge for that team. His attacking brilliance is definitely what they need. But a huge surprise shock win, 56-20. I couldn't believe it when I got up on Sunday morning. Just about fell off my chair. Moving on now, penultimate game of the round are the Sharks versus the Rebels. And this will be interesting to see how the Rebels bounce back after that big fall away in the second half of their match last week. It was a lightning start and lightning ball for Dan du Preez. They got the Sharks off to a flyer, but it was quickly reeled back in by the try-friendly Rebels, who scored a couple of their own through English and Maddox. Cooper was, I think, having one of his better games as he has all season with the Rebels, but he's continued on that good form, really the key cog in that Rebels backline. The Sharks went with the sticks for every chance they could get, and du Preez was definitely not letting them down with those shots at goal. Scoring less tries, but definitely right in the match, leading at halftime, 16-14 over the Rebels. Into the second half, the game changed massively, didn't it? Like it was the week before, the Sharks took over, they dominated the scoreboard, and they dominated defence massively. Couple of tries, Rob du Preez jumped over, and of course, original king, Makazole Mapimpi, jumped in as well. But defence, massively, that is the key thing I took from the second half performance from the Sharks was their defence. They got a late yellow to Low for a pretty bad tackle. I'm surprised he only got a yellow. It was quite a shocker. If you haven't seen it, go check that out. Off the ball. The guy didn't even have the ball. He was miles away from the ball carrier, and he just absolutely took him to the cleaners. But it was the Sharks that hung on comfortably enough watching the game. 28-14 only the scoreline, but good for the Sharks. The Rebels are definitely a banana skin side travelling over to Africa.
Their hoodoo continues in South Africa. It's shocking, and for a side of that quality, why are you not winning games in South Africa? That's a big question for the Rebels to ask if they want to keep the pace up with the Australian Conference. And there's not much pace there compared to other conferences, but I should know, I'm Australian. But the fact is this. The Sharks at Durban are very, very dangerous. They will circle you, no pun intended. And that is why.
Oh no.
He's frozen.
Oh no. Shane has got taken over by an ice candle.
We'll never know why now.
We'll never know why. Oh, catastrophic. Oh, dear. Oh, we only have one game left to go to. We'll never know what he thought. Oh, no, it's his Reds as well.
It is his Reds next. And we were relying on him for that. Well, it's dear me. Hopefully he'll come back.
We were waiting for that. Hopefully he will. Well, I can key over the points for the final matchup if you like, Paul, and you can try save Shane back from the doldrums of poor Australian internet. Right, final game. Reds versus the Brumbies. I was going to just about let this one completely go for Shane, but he's ditched us. Finally, we did get to see the Reds, though. They finally actually exposed themselves, the full capabilities of what they can do, and they scored all the first half points in the game. Higginbotham and Higgity jumping in to score the tries. Take a tight halftime lead, but over at Brumbies side, you never know what they're going to turn up with. 10-0 was the halftime score. The Reds taking that out. Second half, though, definitely more interest in that one. The Brumbies scored first to cut the lead to just 3. One scoring player is all it takes. Henry Spate jumping all over that one. But then the Reds, through that middle passage of the match, they definitely flicked the switch and they changed the match up completely. Chris Fiawi saw Tia and Tate McDermott, who's making a habit out of scoring tries here for the Reds, sent this result to all but over. Reds era's closing stages allowed for Jerome Brown to score within literal minutes of making his Super Rugby debut. And it gave the Brumbies a little bit of a sniff, but Higgity soon put that to bed alongside Pango Mosa. They tore it away, and an impressive display. Brumbies. I was surprised to see this one. Do we have any thoughts from Shane? This is the one I was waiting for Shane, or has he still run away from us?
No, I think we're still missing Shane, unfortunately. No, I did see this one, and I thought the Reds should have been out, should have run out bigger winners. They should have pulled out a bigger lead early on. I think it shows that this Brumbies side really, if you front up against their pack, then you've got a pretty good chance against them.
Yeah, I think they backline wise they looked quite clueless. It's like that good performance that Lealiafano had against the Chiefs. I'm pretty sure it was, where he looked to stand out. They missed that. They need that directional 10. They got talented players. I think of Spates. They got Banks is a fairly good finisher as well. Plenty of guys that can do the job. Kieran Drani's is another one, but they just don't seem to have that direction. And you're right. If they don't get that go forward from the pack, if they don't get that driving maul, I mean, how many times was that driving maul sacked by the Reds in the last, inside 10 metres, 15 metres from their line was huge. And they put huge pressure on the Brumbies in those areas to actually control that game there. And I thought the Reds beat the Brumbies at their own game and then finished them off with their own style in the end of the back. So it was good. I've been waiting for that from the Reds. Ever since the Highlanders game, I thought, yeah, these guys can do the job. And they've let me down. And then I give up hope and they deliver that. It was a good win, though.
Yeah, absolutely. There have been a side that you've looked at their performances, and you think, yeah, here's a team that isn't getting the results, but they are putting the performances in. They should be doing better. And the other thing about them, I think one of the things we talked about during the preview is that they just don't give up very many penalties as well. They're one of the least penalised sides, which again means they're not feeding that Brumbies line-out maul. And if you starve that line-out maul, hey, it's game over for the Brumbies. And Andre says that the Reds should have doubled their lead at half time, and basically the Brumbies can't travel, so it was an easy pick. But by the sounds of things, Stephen, this is you. Did you go with the Brumbies for this one?
I did by a whisker. I gave up hope on the Reds. I picked them a number of times in the build up to this one because I like you said, I saw what they played, the style they brought, and it just seemed like they were just that little bit off. And I wasn't confident that they could do what we just talked about, that they could beat the Brumbies in that forward game. They've got a really good pack, but it's young, it's inexperienced. Just whether they could step up that next level. And that decided the game. If they didn't, they probably would have got rolled over pretty easily. But I got a credit to them. Well played to them as well. They shut the Brumbies down every single opportunity they got.
Yeah, they couldn't get their own driving maul going, which they have done previously, but hey, they didn't need to. So that's okay.
They got a bit more excitement in the backs, don't they? They got. Yeah. I mean, the Brumbies backs can be good, but they're a bit lost, I guess you could call it. Like we've seen from Waratahs in previous years, all the names, all the stars, but lost, not going forward, and they need that direction. Whereas when you've got a guy like a Karevi, like the Reds, he doesn't give two hoots what way the pack's going. He's just going straight through the middle of six guys to get that forward momentum. So that's a big difference, and he's a real leader in that Reds team. He's impressed big time.
No, absolutely. And we're talking about those Brumbies backs. They just lack sparkle. I mean, Kieran Driney is a good player. Banks, isn't it? I think it is. That's there. It is another good player that's going to probably should see Wallaby action. So Henry Spate can play, but they're all they're not sparkling backs. They're all they need someone around them to be a bit more creative, really, and that's the that's the big thing. Shane reckons, because he's in the live chat there. Reds are showing the potential under Brad Thorne, but Derby games are only half measure to truly gauge where they are. And yeah, that's going to be true about the Aussie Conference. But hey, if you win your home games, you're halfway there.
Well, that's true. And I mean, they played all right against the New Zealand teams as well. Like their first game, keep going back to it, they played pretty well against the Highlanders, who are no slouches.
Very true. So thank you very much, Steve, for joining us. Don't forget to check out the Cornflakes YouTube channel, where he does much longer preview shows than I do for the for each round, and also your best place for rugby computer gaming action. God, dear, that's a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it? Thanks, Shane, and sorry we lost you, but obviously we'll have you back again last week. Don't forget, for those of you on the live, thank you very much for joining us in the live chat. It's been good to chat away there, where I've been kind of hanging out with you guys. For those of you on the recording, don't forget, up there is how you subscribe to the channel. That's where you get post-match reactions, plus your 8 p.m. every night of the week rugby shows. Down here is that link to Patreon I was talking about earlier, where you can get access to my thoughts from last week on the CDC investment in Six Nations, and where I'll also be talking about this week about Sunwolves being cut in a video for Wednesday and a video for Thursday about what Super Rugby getting reduced to 14 teams. There's all sorts of politics and stuff to cover off in there. It's not just the structural, normal stuff that you're going to expect. And over there, the artificial intelligence here at YouTube says you'll enjoy those shows, so go give them a click.